The ideological foundation of what we call neoliberalism today was given by Ludwig von Mises and Friedrich von Hayek, two Austrian economists. Mises believed that egoism was the prime law of society, while Hayek claimed that a free market creates a spontaneous order that fixes the issues of economic calculation. In essence, neoliberals demand that you deregulate the market, privatize almost everything, cut government services, and by doing so, they believe the economy will pretty much fix itself. In 1947, an organization called the Mont Pelerin Society was formed to bring together neoliberal intellectuals around the world. The goal of the Mont Pelerin Society was not to convince the masses that neoliberalism was the way to go, as they considered the people to be mere followers of the elite. They shifted their attention to winning sympathies of intellectuals worldwide. A prominent member of the Mont Pelerin Society, called Milton Friedman, decided to get the ball rolling. As the leader of the Chicago School of Economics, Friedman started collaborating with the Catholic University of Chile, from which students were sent to the University of Chicago and were indoctrinated with neoliberalism. They returned to Chile and were ready to shape Chile's economy after the democratically elected government of President Salvador Allende was overthrown in a CIA-backed coup led by Augusto Pinochet on September 11, 1973.
Chile was a case in which a military regime headed by Pinochet was willing to switch the organization of the economy, and in that process a group of people who had been trained at the University of Chicago in the Department of Economics, who came to be called the Chicago Boys, played a major role in designing and implementing the economic reforms.
Milton Friedman was also personally involved in the Chile experiment.
I did make a trip to Chile and I made talks in Chile. In fact, I did meet with Mr. Pinochet.
As they listened to Friedman's advice, the economy slowly started collapsing, even though the elites, together with Friedman, were convincing the people that they were building a better society.
If you want to live in a society where your compatriots are poor and you are rich, and you think that's better, a better society, then you would like it.
A Chilean family trying to live on the average wage had to spend 75% of its income on bread. Riding the bus or drinking milk became luxuries. Those who revolted were put in concentration camps. 100,000 people were jailed, thousands were killed.
I am more than willing to share in the credit for the extraordinary job that our students did down there.
In neighboring Argentina, President Isabel Perón was overthrown in a military coup, and as Friedman's disciples filled key economic positions in the country, within a year of the coup, wages dropped by 40%, factories closed, poverty spread, dissidents simply disappeared. The neoliberal coups didn't stop there.
Que é o golpe contra Allende, né? No Brasil contra João Goulart, não? E em toda a região da América Latina e América Central, né? Que é a busca de anexar política e economicamente esta região.
After Latin America, the economic policies of Milton Friedman spread to Western countries themselves. In Britain, Margaret Thatcher defeated the biggest union in the country, the mining union, and pushed through the neoliberal reforms, selling off the steel industry, water, electricity, gas, telephones, airlines, oil, and cutting many social programs. America, with President Ronald Reagan, did much of the same, widening the gap between the rich and the poor. The big prize, of course, was the Soviet Union.
Having won the Cold War, and that led, of course, to the breakup of the Soviet Empire, both in the Warsaw Pact and Eastern European countries, and within the Soviet Union itself, that has helped contribute to a movement toward democracy.
In fact, democracy was to be quickly trumped by Western financial interests. While Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev propagated a gradual transition to Scandinavian-style socialism with help from the West, he didn't understand what kind of help the West was ready to give.
The U.S. could have prevented the meltdown of the Soviet economy with an infusion of aid after Gorbachev withdrew the troops from Eastern Europe, but did not do so.
Few people knew what a radical transformation of the economy meant for the newly established Russian Federation. As a matter of fact, many Russian intellectuals were behind President Boris Yeltsin, whose advisors were also Friedman's disciples.
The Moscow intellectuals, you couldn't tell them what it was like. They were saying, oh, the poorest people in your country live better than I do. Here's a guy sitting there, he had a small apartment, okay, a wall of books, educated at Moscow University, speaks fluent English, never went hungry one day in his life. And we would say, well, we have people who live in doorways. They sleep in doorways. They eat out of garbage cans. I've seen them myself. And they say, oh, you don't have to lie to us. Oh, they don't. They would not believe it. America, America.
Yeah, you want America? You'll get America. A small number of businessmen in Russia became billionaires, better known as oligarchs, while a third of all Russians dropped below the poverty line. State industries were sold off at bargain prices. Boris Yeltsin, with full support of America, dissolved parliament as only a dictator could ensure the implementation of Friedman's economic policies. I think you get the picture here. Neoliberalism was imposed in dictatorships and in states of emergency, while the population was in shock, something author Naomi Klein coined as the shock doctrine. The pioneer of shock therapy was an economist named Jeffrey Sachs, who traveled and administered his economic therapy to patient countries designated by the West. In 1991, Božidar Đelić, who would later become Serbia's Minister of Economy and Finances after Milosevic was deposed, met Jeffrey Sachs, who recruited him for 3 years of service in Poland and Russia as a top-level advisor to those countries' neoliberal reforms. In an interview for Harvard Business School, Đelić described the reforms as being honest with the patient and administering the dose of medicine required for recovery. Because when a patient needs to recover, shock is definitely the best medicine, eh? When I look at all the chaos that happened in all those countries, from the coups in Latin America, the Falklands War that allowed Thatcher to push through her policies, to the burning White House in Moscow after Yeltsin ordered its shelling, I can't help but wonder whether the burning Yugoslav parliament building and TV station was meant to have the same effect. Maybe instead of looking at the smoke, we should have been looking what had already happened next door.
1994. Hrvatska je bila u ratnom stanju i radi ratnog stanja je država imala veći proračunski deficit, a istodobno je izostao takozvani devizni priljev od turizma i došlo je do deficita platne bilance. Znači više je deviza izlazilo iz zemlje nego ulazilo.
This led to a hyperinflation in Croatia.
Hrvatska rješava problem hiperinflacije na način da pretvara središnju banku u mjenjačnicu. I tu zapravo počinje cijeli problem. Naime, do 1994. država je radila emisiju novca, takozvanog hrvatskog dinara. Nakon 1994. za svaku kunu koja se pušta u opticaj, bilo je potrebno vani se zadužiti. To znači da je kuna pretvorena u bon za euro. Odnosno, da ako recimo domaća banka želi vama kao fizičkoj osobi dati kredit, ona ne može posuditi od središnje banke kune koje bi potom posudila vama, već mora prvo vani na stranom tržištu novca posuditi eure, onda te eure u HNB-u pretvara u kune i zato sve kune koje ljudi dobivaju u obliku kredita dolaze sa valutnom klauzulom.
This monetary policy, known as the quasi-fixed exchange rate, wasn't new. It was first adopted by Thailand in the 1980s. The way it works is you tie your country's official exchange rate to another country's currency. In this case, Croatia tied it to the euro. This creates the illusion of a fluctuating exchange rate, the illusion of a Croatian currency.
Čak se i naš novac uopće niti ne proizvodi u Hrvatskoj. To je jedna stravična spoznaja. Znači, ako uzmete novčanicu od 10 kuna, tu gdje je Pulska arena, na donjoj strani piše Gieske and de Vriend, Germany, koji na novčanici od 20 kuna piše Gieske and de Vriend, Germany, znači tiskara je Njemačka. Na novčanici od 50 kuna pak one se proizvode u Austriji, piše evo CEPS Austrija. Novčanica od 1000 kuna također se proizvodi u Njemačkoj. I na kraju 100 kuna CEPS Austrija.
Makes you wonder who runs the show when it comes to the Croatian economy.
Na postavljeno pitanje takozvanoj Hrvatskoj narodnoj banci, radi čega se kune ne tiskaju u Hrvatskoj, odgovor je bio da se kod nas novac ne isplati ekonomski proizvoditi. I onda se postavlja ono suštinsko pitanje, ukoliko se u našoj državi ne isplati proizvoditi novac, što se onda isplati proizvoditi?
Was this the Croatia that its first president, Franjo Tuđman, had promised to the people when it declared independence from Yugoslavia in 1991, triggering a bloody war that lasted 4 years?